Welcome to the Amazing Authorities Podcast, where game changers, visionaries, and category leaders share how they built their brands, platforms, and global influence. Your host is Mitch Carson, international speaker, media strategist, and creator of the Instant Authority System. If you're ready to learn from those who've done it and want to become the go-to expert in your space, you're in the right place.
Matt Bailey, welcome to the Amazing Authorities Podcast.
Thank you so much, Mitch. I appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, the reason I use the title Amazing Authorities because people go through a selection process, have to be different and special. And I don't mean what your mother told you as a boy. Oh, Matt, you're so special. Yeah, they might fib a little bit with a partial bias. I'm not biased. I truly want value out of my guests for them to dispense to the listeners and viewers, and for you to drop bombs, which I'm sure you'll be able to provide our listeners today. I mean, you come from something that most people ignore, the metrics. You start at a strategic level, from what I understand, when my research on you, big picture, and then get granular. Tell us what that is.
I'll give you an example based on what put me on this path. Back in the mid-90s, I was building websites for real estate companies. And, just to give you a sense of the atmosphere back then, my broker told me, Matt, I don't think you should put so much time into this internet thing. On the meantime, I loved what I was doing. I was learning. And so building these sites, but I only had a certain amount of time that I could work on them. And we were getting leads from them. It was really doing well, and we're starting to sell some properties. But one night I remember sitting there saying, I've got 2 hours. What is the best use of this time? And I could not answer that question. And so that set me into learning analytics. And through that, I learned some stuff that just blew my mind. I learned that 90% of my leads were coming from search engines, which is wonderful. Fantastic. Then I sat down and looked at where my sales came from. And my sales came from a digital ad that I had on another site. And I realized that people that were coming from that site were further down the funnel, more ready to buy, and that accounted for 80% of my sales. And so that taught me, number one, big numbers lie. And number two, follow the money. Don't just look at the metrics, find where the money's going.
Yeah, and one platform isn't the same as others. Now, I mentioned before we started this call, I mean, I've run events all over the world. And what works to puts butts in seats for live in-person events varies based on geography. And you might get a lot of leads in certain markets through Facebook as an example. But when I filled 18 events in Japan, guess where I got my leads? Yahoo.
Yeah.
They were the ones that converted.
Yep.
It had nothing to do with the other platforms. Just didn't work. So you got to know your market.
Absolutely. And behavior is different. That's what's so amazing to me is that everyone tries to, I don't want to say cut corners, but you've got limited time, limited resources. But if you're not looking to see what is the behavior, what's the expected behavior that people have when they open up a platform or an app, because it's not the same from one to the other. I asked my college students, I'm like, if you are standing in line at the bookstore for 3 minutes, what app are you opening? And 9 times out of 10, it's Instagram. But if they're back in their dorm room, they want to entertain themselves, it's YouTube. So it's people come to a platform with an expectation based on the time they have, what they want to accomplish out of it, or a mood. And so absolutely, yeah, you've got to look at what's working for that particular situation.
Well, you mentioned your college students. So that's a particular age group, a demographic. They're looking at Instagram and TikTok, I presume, is big until...
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Who knows what Trump will do with it or not. But it's TikTok is there also. But let's talk about my age group. I'm a baby boomer. I'm 65. I don't
All right.
look at TikTok. I got tired of the
Right.
dancing girls that I would never be able to talk to anyway. But I do look at Instagram on occasion.
Hmm.
And is Facebook for the older people today? Because I understand that that's still the highest converting ROAS, return on ad spend out there.
Because we've got an older audience there. Your younger audiences have moved on, but also your older audiences tend to be uh, have more money. I'll just say it
Yes.
that way.
Bingo. Bingo. We got the money.
Older audiences have more money. And so in some ways, for certain products, there's a lot less competition. And so, yeah, if you're looking at your return on ad spend and reaching the audience that you want to, Facebook allows that granular targeting. I'm working with a client right now on how to target very specifically in a region, then nationally. And this gives them the ability to do that.
Do you, so what is the initial onboarding when you take on a client? Because you're focused in training corporations, or not
Hmm.
just corporations, let's say companies with employees of 25 plus. Is that a fair?
Yeah, that's about it. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, 25 plus. So they are in business. They've got systems in play. What
Mhm.
exactly do you offer them?
So I offer hands-on training workshops. Instead of just coming in with lectures and a slide deck, what I want to know before I even get there is send me your marketing material, send me who you're targeting, send me your Marcom, and I want to see it all. And also send me access to your analytics. Let me jump in, see what you got going. And so the companies that are willing to share that as a result get a very personalized training. But I would describe what I do more as a facilitator because I probably will do 15, maybe 20 minutes of talking in an hour. And the rest of the time is activities where they're working together and I'm just walking around, but I'm asking them questions. Why are you doing that? Why'd you choose this? And so the feedback that I get from that is that the value is having that third party that forces them to think through, why are we doing it this way? You know what? And so I'm not bringing a lot of new information. What I'm trying to do is develop new habits, develop new methods of interaction, of planning, of iteration, because we can introduce, something like a new technology or a new system into a workflow. But if people don't adopt it every day, it won't take. And so that's the purpose of the workshops is how do we integrate this and make it applicable so that it's something that I do every day and bring that in. So it's a lot of collaboration, a lot of very specific assignments, activities, and then they share them with each other and get feedback, and we work on the next iteration. And so it's a very hands-on workshop that's driving people to create better teams, to have a shared vocabulary of what's
Mm.
happening. And so it brings up everyone's level of understanding, of objectives, of practice. And as a result, it just increases the performance of that team, two, three, four times beyond what they were doing before.
So you create synergies. You create,
Absolutely.
I like the idea of vocabulary. So people are talking about the same thing. I had a funny interaction, and this involves culture again, because in Dubai, where you run quite a few events, as we discussed, you're dealing with a diverse culture. I don't know how many different nationalities are there, but I got an email this morning that I read, Matt, from a man out of the UK, or I think he was Scottish originally, but he referred to the United Kingdom in his email, and he said, we offer coaching fortnight. And I had to look that up. I don't know what a fortnight is. And I had to go and look at, because we don't use that word,
Right. Yep.
or two words even, but I think it's one word, fortnight. So I'd look, it means every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was. Did you? Did you know what that was?
I did, Mitch. I'm sorry.
Well, okay. Well, I guess you're more traveled than me. I didn't know what a fortnight was. I've never
I
heard
don't
that in
I
America.
don't use the word, but it has come up in our household a couple of times recently, so that's how I know it.
Oh, you mean in Ohio? Or
Yes, yes. Oh,
how
yes.
did that happen? Did one of your kids get educated on that?
It came up in one of the books they were reading, and yeah, and so that we were just joking about that, and it came up with the debate of what is biweekly. Is is it 2 times a month or is it twice a week? So what's that was the side discussion we went on with that.
Well, with that, I mean, you mentioned vocabulary, and I've run into this. I've traveled, I've spoken on stages in 63 countries, and things change based on regionality. How do you
Hmm.
cater your training to accommodate that? I mean, when you run into Dubai, you're not just speaking to Emiratis. You
No. Oh
maybe
no.
speak, and it's, I think in Dubai, correct me if my stat is wrong. I'm a numbers guy
Hmm.
too. I like looking at numbers.
Sure.
I just don't necessarily, I'm not a but the data is 88% of Dubai, not Abu Dhabi, but Dubai is expats.
It's probably more than that. It's probably over
Okay.
90 now. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it's just a
Yeah.
very small percentage were Emiratis, which means
Hmm.
for listeners, that means natives of United Arab Emirates. Dubai is
Yes.
just a city. People
Yep.
sometimes confuse that.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes an awareness of understanding the culture. It also takes an awareness of language when you are presenting. Number one is I forced myself to drop the use of idioms. I
Mm,
heard another
that's
speaker
what I wanted to
once.
hear.
Yeah.
Yes.
Number one, I heard another speaker. We were in France speaking at an e-commerce it's like a 4-day e-commerce extravaganza. And I heard him from the stage say, there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Right.
Now,
Oh
me,
boy.
I'm looking right over at the interpreters because I want to see their reaction. And then I'm looking at everyone with the headphones on because I want to see what they have to say. And just people looking at each other, like, what does a cat have to do with advertising? And it was just, but that was a reinforcement that, yes, drop the use of idioms and it's hard to do. And so losing a lot of that cultural influence. Now, also, there is a method of when you are entertaining it, and people can tell the difference between someone who is a showman and someone who legitimately loves being there and doing what they do. That is that's what I have noticed in many different cultures, but especially in the Middle Eastern culture. Uh, I even bring speakers in as well, and very quickly they distinguish between who's there for business and who's there because they just absolutely love it. And so right away there is a separation line. One of my favorite things is you may have seen this too. When I am in where was it? It was I think it was in Germany. They told me that Germans won't ask a question unless they know they will be the first person to have ever asked that question.
See, now that's a cultural component. I
Yeah.
didn't know.
Yeah. So if you just as a speaker ask for a question, does anyone have a question? No, you're not going to get a hand. You're not going to get a reaction because number one, they're not going to ask a question and they think it unless they know it is the most brilliant question to have ever been asked in this session. So as a speaker, then how are you going to get feedback from this group? So how we get feedback is that workshop, is breaking people into groups, having them do activities. When they're in a small group working on an activity and I'm kind of hovering around there, that's when the questions come. And so it's also getting people to a place where they feel comfortable asking because honestly, a lot of what I'm doing is teaching them how to ask questions. Because in a corporate setting, if you don't know how to ask a good question, then you don't get good feedback, you don't get good direction, you don't get good resources. And so that is a lot of sort of the sidetrack of what I'm teaching people to do. Ask good questions, present your data in an understandable, concise format with a clear ask. Those types of things are the underlying currents of what I'm teaching as we're going through just, Things like search engine optimization, data analytics, paid search, content marketing. Those are the easy things. What I'm teaching them are those soft skills that we call. I'd rather call them human skills because
Yeah,
that's
that's what
what's
matters.
yeah, yeah,
That's what
that's what's going
matters.
to advance your career.
Well, and you mentioned idioms, which is key, and I wanted to break off from super objective data versus
Mhm.
the human side because I don't know how, maybe it'll happen in our lifetime, we will yet to be determined, AI and the
Mhm.
overlay of the impact. How has that impacted your business or has it not?
You know, from a it has in a way, if someone is looking just for the technical skills, yeah, AI will tell you what to do. The problem is when you want to put it into practice, who's going to tell you that you're doing it right?
Mm.
Because there's 20 different ways to do it. ChatGPT will tell you you're the most amazing person in the world, and not only have you done it right, but you should make a million doing it. Uh, so, you know, so what I sell is mentorship. What I sell is learn how to do it from someone who's been doing it, but you're not just going to learn the how to, you're going to learn the why. You're going to learn how to position yourself within an organization. You're going to learn how to present your information in a memorable way that persuades and drives decisions. You're going to learn how to ask good questions that get you noticed. So that's how I position is more of those human skills beyond just the how to, because there's a million places you can get the how to.
Well, and you brought up something that made it very clear to me you're a seasoned pro. And I didn't know that until we got into the conversation. You go around in your workshops and do what's necessary. You ask questions as opposed to lecture.
Yeah.
That distinguishes a smart consultant slash trainer from someone who can just read from a book. That a robot can do that. But understanding when and how to ask the right questions, that's the mark of wisdom.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Uh so after being in marketing for about 20, 25 years, during the pandemic, I went and got a master's degree in education in instructional design because I wanted my training to be better. I also wanted to create online training as well. But what I was attempting to do wasn't working. And so I wanted to learn. And so as I'm going through this course on instructional design, I'm learning like, oh, I learned that the hard way. Here it is. Here's the book telling me exactly what to do. But, experience teaches you one thing, the book teaches you another. And so I was excited going through that program because it was reinforcing things that I had seen, had learned. And the exciting thing was being able to apply that right away in training and courses, in the understanding how people learn, and then how to measure what you've done when you've led a workshop. That was the most powerful thing I learned out of that.
Give me a case study, a recent one, of who you've helped and what happened.
Okay. Wow. I'm trying to think. I mean,
Which
most of
one are
my
you
work.
most proud of? Like, okay, reinforced Matt Bailey
Mhm.
is valuable. I'm
All right.
living my passion because you mentioned speakers you'll know that are there that are truly passionate about their. Where did it validate what you're doing? You're in the right space and you're not digging ditches.
My one of my favorite projects is when I started working with the government communications office in Dubai,
Mm.
and one of their initiatives was to train and develop Emiratis as content creators, influencers in social media. And so this was this was done online during lockdown in 2020. And so we had 40 Emirati personalities that we trained for about 2.5 months. Now, what was phenomenal about this? We had the first Arabic female boxer. We had a
Oh,
comedian. We had a musician who she is classically trained in opera and in cello, and has played with the Prague Philharmonic. We had a youth influencer. We had gamers. It was just amazing the breadth of people we had in that course. And over the course of those 2 months, taught them everything about branding themselves, marketing themselves, creating a social media presence, how to work with social media, how to branch into different channels. It was one of the most intensive programs that we ever put together. And these courses, like I said, this was 2 months. This was 4 hours a day going through. So I brought in other trainers, other speakers, other resources to help with them. And that was more, that was a challenge because it was also taking what was done in workshops into online, and this during lockdown. So everyone's still trying to figure out what's going on. Fast forward a couple of years, the UAE tourism is using these content creators to promote tourism to the UAE. And I think the last numbers we have, this program's been going on for 3 years. It's now in its 4th year, but they call it the coolest winter. And that is the tourism program for the UAE and specifically for Dubai, that come to Dubai for the coolest winter on earth. And you've been there. It's not that cool. It's a play on words, but
yeah, the summers are brutal.
Oh yeah, summer. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But the winter, it's a comfortable, 85, 90 degrees. And the humidity's less, but it is a lot of fun. And that program over the past 3 years is responsible for almost $1 billion in tourism. And they have tracked hotel bookings. The content has reached every country on the earth. We look at the metrics of it and the engagement, but really what we're looking at is hotel bookings, increased tourism, occupancy rates. Those are all as a direct result of the campaign using those content creators. And so I love standing in the wings and just applauding what I would call my friends and my students, and seeing them become so successful at what they're doing, and then having a part in promoting their homeland to the rest of the world. That was the most rewarding, I think one of the most impactful campaigns I've ever worked on.
So if a corporate HR director or training director wants to hire Matt Bailey, where will they find you?
They will find me at sitelogic.com. That's SITE logic.com, or sitelogicmarketing.com, or Matt Bailey SL or Matt Bailey Site Logic on LinkedIn. Very easy.
Great. And where do you typically take jobs or take contracts, accept contracts?
Usually it's just a direct communication. Some people contact me off LinkedIn, others through the website on SiteLogic or sitelogicmarketing.com. And that's where we show what courses are available, but we also are very clear that we will create one for you. If you want part of that, we customize and create what you think your team needs, but we also have pre-assessment tests that will test your team to see where is their competency level in 10 different areas. And then we can sit down and create something that's going to bring them all up to the same level.
Great. Well, Matt, you've been a fantastic guest, and I have to applaud you with the Green Chicken Award. Yes.
That's great, Mitch.
The yellow chicken is good job. The green one is super good, and that's the color of money. And that's what you'll help people with. That's the ultimate metric.
Yes, it is.
Not leads. It's the ultimate metric that converts. You will be a guest again, Mr. Matt Bailey. Thank you so much for your time today, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Mitch. It's been a pleasure, and it's been a lot of fun.
Thanks for tuning in to the Amazing Authorities Podcast. If today's episode inspired you, take a moment to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps more experts like you rise to the top. For behind-the-scenes access and free resources to boost your authority, head to MitchCarson.com. Until next time, stay amazing.